Sensational Sundays with your girl Elise on Flashpoint Radio. Come, let's talk, let's hang, let's just jam on Sunday, 3 p.m. Flashpoint Radio. Welcome to another episode of Sensational Sundays. And I'm your girl, Elise. And you know, listeners, Sundays are always sensational for Elise. Wow. Today we have a remarkable guest joining us. Her name is Carolyn Smith. She's a courageous and inspiring woman who has faced one of life's most profound challenges: the loss of a child. In this episode, we will hear Carolyn's heartfelt journey of coping with unimaginable grief and discovering the strength to move forward. Her story is a testament to the power of resilience and the human spirit's capacity to find hope even in the darkest moments. Welcome, Carolyn. We are happy to have you here on Sensational Sundays. Well, for the listeners who probably don't know, Carolyn has been a member of our Toastmasters Club. As a matter of fact, she served as president and has served very well. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sensational Sunday. It's our privilege to have you. How are you doing, Carolyn?
I'm great, and it's my privilege to be here also.
Listeners, Carolyn always has a smile on her face. A smile is always, and she always has such profound and wonderful words of encouragement. And I am so happy to have her join us this afternoon. Carolyn, I know you are a mother, and just tell the listeners a little bit about you.
I'm a mother of, actually, I mothered four children, two girls and two boys. And I currently am raising my last child, who is a teenager.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. Children are truly a blessing for from the Lord, and you have been indeed blessed. So are the other three children with you?
No, the other three is not with me. They're adults. Two lived far from me, and my eldest passed away 19 years ago.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. Tell me, was your eldest ill for any period of time before she passed on?
She was ill for 1 month before she passed.
Wow, that was a very short time to having, you know, spent with someone who would have gone, your child, your eldest child. But tell me, what was that journey like for you? The point that she became ill, to the point that you have a limited time to spend with her. Tell me, walk us through that experience.
It's very clear in my head. She took sick on a day she went to school. She was going to primary school. She was 11 and a half years old. She complained of headache, and my mom, I went to work, and my mom took her to the doctor. And that was it. My mom received a letter from the doctor saying you need to take her to University Hospital in Jamaica at that time because they see something on her ECG or EKG which was not correct. And that was it. That
So,
started a downhill journey.
so after she did the
Through
ECG, they had to do some further tests.
testing.
So,
And after that, we realized it wasn't really her heart.
right, right. So you realized that it was something more than her heart, but something that would have been affecting her heart.
Yes.
Was she able to come back home to you after she had gone to the hospital?
Um, she just came home for a brief visit. Um, it was that she didn't come home immediately. She came home like two a little over 2 weeks later, and then we had to take her back to the hospital. But we had to just ask them if they could allow her to spend like the Easter with us or the holidays before the Easter with us because we saw that her health was declining and we just wanted to spend a little bit more time with
What would have kept you going during that time, having her deteriorate so quickly? Did you still have that hope that she would have recovered?
her. I had a great hope at that time that um, she would have recovered, a possibility that she would have. But also, what kept me was my faith in God and my strong family family bonds that kept us together.
Okay, so you would have been praying and hoping that she would have recovered, even though the doctors would have said, we are not sure what is going to be happening next.
They at that time they did not say, um, even though we discovered the tumor, and they were still open that there were things that could have been done that would have either give them the possibility of removing the tumor or shrinking it somehow. But it was the growth was too rapid. So
Carolyn, I know it's quite difficult to share the story. It was 19 years ago, but it's still fresh, still fresh in your mind. It's never easy. It's never easy to lose a loved one, and it's even harder to lose a child. And I want to thank you for sharing this afternoon, because a lot of us have been experiencing losses, and sometimes the burden and the loss seems unbearable for us, and we look outside for hope, and sometimes only our faith in God keeps us going. I'm thankful that you had members of the family who would have been standing by you during this difficult time. And even now we are hopeful that one day we won't have to face this issue called death and suffering and grief. Did they attempt to do any surgery though? Did they attempt to do anything to prolong the life of your child?
They did. She was diagnosed with lymphoma, and thus it affected her lungs. So they did underwater seal drainage, which they thought would have alleviated some of the pressure, or just would have given them also some more time to do what they think was necessary. And that only proved that the tumor just keep growing more rapid. And they afterwards, it's only no for me it happened so quickly, because between between complained diagnosis, and it was only a month. So their next step would have been to try chemotherapy, but they didn't get a chance to use chemotherapy to see if that would have worked. And that was their hope, to see if they try chemotherapy and it would have reduced the size, and then they would be able to operate. But it didn't happen.
The time went by so quickly. But tell me, you have stayed strong, but at that time, would you say that your faith would have been tested? You would have asked some questions. You would have said, why? Why my little girl? Why my family? Why me? Did those questions ever occur to you at any time?
Yes, when I just found out, yes, it did. Um, I asked, I prayed and I said, Lord, if I could switch places, she's young, she has her life ahead of her. That year she did her GSAT in the hospital. So I was like, okay, Lord, she has a bright future. Why her and not me? And I know most time that's what parents would say. You know, you know, you would give anything to replace your child, because you do not want to see them in the pain they're going through. But um, she was the one who said to me, "Why not her?" And it baffled me, and that's when I prayed and I said, "Okay, Lord, give me insight." And I would call all my church supporters for strength, because now here's a child who is questioned, why not her? And I wavered, and I would say that at any time I did. At time I was like, okay, Lord, you're not hearing me. You need to talk to me. Talk to me. I need to hear from you. But then sometime I said to myself, probably he was talking and I wasn't listening. So I know is a test of character, test of faith, test of everything. But I'm very thankful that He still holds me fast, and He still guided my hands, and He still held me. Even when I couldn't see that He was there for me, God held me still. And I'm so thankful for that.
It amazes me that at that tender age she could have asked such a question, why not me? So she would have been a child of faith. She would have been exposed to studying the word of God at that stage for her to be saying, why not me? And that must have shaken your very core, because you would have stepped in her place, but that's not how it was meant to be. And even at this time, you can actually have a heart of gratitude, because God would have given you that precious gift in that form of a child. And what an amazing gift. And you must have treasured the 10, 11 years that you would have spent with her. And to see that she actually was able to sit her exam, even though she was going through such a difficult time. But on the other side of this break, we're going to continue the conversation with Carolyn. And if you wonder, you have experienced loss, and you're trying to understand and support those who have gone through grief, well, this episode is for you. Carolyn's story is indeed touching my heart, and it's uplifting my spirit, and it's reminding us that the resilience of the human heart and mind exists with God as number one.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4 Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burden be, and I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can't stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. to more than I can be.
Thank you for staying with us, listeners, on this episode of Sensational Sundays. We're speaking with Carolyn Smith, and Carolyn has experienced the loss of her child. And even in this moment of grief, she has found a place that she can encourage someone. She has found a place that she can give a word of wisdom. And I must say, Carolyn, moments of grief often lead to moments of growth. How has this experience transformed you and influenced your perspective on life?
This is a this has allowed me to see that there, other than just depending on yourself, you have to totally depend on God and not just yourself, and also rely on those that are also around you, your family members, your church family, those that stand by you through thick and thin. And those are the ones that our Heavenly Father has placed as His hands to hold you up in times of grief or times when you're going through difficulties. Those are the ones that He has placed around you at that time so that they can reflect His character onto you.
And when I think about it, and when the moments come in life when we experience loss, sometimes we can't find the words of encouragement, but somebody else beside you might say a word, or you might need a shoulder, and that shoulder is there. No man is an island indeed, and no man stands alone. And Carolyn's story doesn't end there. Carolyn now is dealing with the diagnosis of a second child with a life-threatening condition. Carolyn, share with us what this experience has been like for you.
This experience has only pushed me more to pray at this time because my current daughter is 20, she just turned 29 years old. And when her diagnosis came, it was hard. And, I called somebody who I consider to be my spiritual mother, and she said, do what you know to do best first. And that was praying. And one thing my daughter said to me, Mom, one thing I need you to do is just continue praying. And that's where we'll get our strength from. So I am so grateful that, the first thing my family will do is to get strength, is pray. Even though we're going through rough times, we know to lean on our only source of strength, which comes from God.
Thank you. Thank you for that. You know, we hear of persons sometimes experiencing depression, not knowing where to turn, what to do. But it's at these moments that we recognize that strength and power to overcome challenges does not rest with us. And so we trust God. There's a song that says, if we can't trace his hands, trust his heart. Because God, indeed,
Mhm.
he cares for us. But I'm sure that sometimes individuals might say not necessarily the right things. And you can share with us, somebody who is listening or, would want to know what would be the right thing to say. Because sometimes inadvertently, we might sometimes come out with the wrong words. But you can share having experienced grief yourself. What are some words that you could say to someone who is going through a challenge, who is experiencing a situation, who is grieving at this moment? What would you say to them?
One thing, and I would say to somebody who has to deal with a loss, is that you have to remember that God or our Heavenly Father, He went through loss when Jesus was on the cross. And He's still in that same position where He was when Christ was on the cross. And Christ came, died, and rested in the grave and rose again. So, there lies our hope. And sometimes, just when somebody around you, you do not cause sickness upon yourself. And I know if it was something that was on a shelf that you could buy, no one would buy sickness. And sometimes it's not nothing that you have done, but it's sometimes it's for the glory of God, and sometimes it's just that it's just something that happens to you. Nothing you could have done to del- prevent it, delay it, nor anything, and it's not yours to take, but lean upon others that will help to carry you through this moment. And just trust God, because even in death, you still have to give Him glory. It's in death that sometimes you rejoice because the person is no longer going through the pain, even though it aches in your heart and leave that space empty. You still have the joy of remembering those good times that you have felt with that person, or even if it's yourself, you can look back over the many times you have gone through bad things, but you had hope through it, and at the end, you can rejoice in knowing that you have made it closer to the end. And that's one thing. And sometimes just some persons do not know what to say, but just having the presence of someone around you does make a difference, even if you sit there being quiet, because that constantly reminds the person you are loved and there is someone who cares for you, even if they just sit there being quiet, or you just can give the person an hug. It does make a difference, even if you do not know what to say.
I am happy you said that, because sometimes just the presence, just a shoulder to lean on. And there are times that you might not necessarily feel like you need to talk, or you need to be having a conversation and questions, and but just be there, just show your support, and that support you would be surprised how helpful that support is. But I'll ask you this question: what are the best memories you have of the time you shared with your daughter?
The best memories of my um, eldest my eldest daughter. She loved to sing. She used to love to dance, and she would hold your face against hers and whisper just anything that it's always nice words that comes to her. And I know right before she passed, the song came out that said, "I hope you dance." And she would just sing it and just dance for everybody at that time. And we did not understand why, but she was always a cheerful child. There wasn't a dull moment around her. She just walk in a room and she lights it up with her smile, with her face, everything. I've never seen her serious, even when she was in pain and she would say, "Mommy, it hurts, it hurts." She had a smile on her face until even when she was in the hospital and I would walk by, persons would say, "You know that happy little girl? That's her mom." And that makes my heart, gave me so much peace to know that, even though she was in so much pain, she would still radiate joy and peace. And she was also a very kind child. She would take a sandwich and she would share it for as much person that was around her. You had to taste that sandwich. If it was only one sandwich she had, everybody around her had to taste it. And that let me understand the difference she made in others' life, not only mine. She made the difference in other person's life also.
As I think about her and all you packaged her to be, I imagine just a nice gift with a bouquet and a bow and everything beautiful about her in this wonderful gift that God would have given. And I know her smile still rings so fresh in your mind and in your heart. And you said that she used to put her cheek up against yours. And I'm sure you can still feel the softness of her cheek against yours. And that is the power of the memories that we have of the loved ones. They never leave us. They are always in our hearts. Those moments that we share are just precious memories. And we thank God that we are able to enjoy those memories. So, on the other side, we're going to have a short break and then we'll continue the conversation. Wow, it has been an amazing journey for our guest this afternoon. You're here tuned in live to Sensational Sundays. I'm your girl Elise, and we're speaking to Carolyn Smith. We have been with her on her journey as she suffered the loss of her eldest child, dealing with the diagnosis of her daughter presently, but still able to give words of encouragement and words of wisdom. And as I listen, I begin to think for myself about what we do value in life. And we frequently say, let's live life as if this is the last moment or the last second that we have. But I'll take it another step. And I say to you, if tomorrow you recognize or today you determine that you have one more minute to live, one more day, what would you have done differently? Would you have cared more for someone? Would you have cared any less? So, Carolyn, as you think about the value of life itself, and you would have recognized back then that the health of your child would have been deteriorating, You said that you asked the doctor to send her home for a little time to spend some time at home. What would you say would have been more valuable to you then? And has that value translated to how you live life now?
Um, for me, then, yes, that moment in spending that one more day with her, just as a family, made a whole lot of difference in how, some of my family members did accept her passing. And for me, it made me value every day that I have with each one of my children very special, but not only my children, but also my families and friends. I value friendship and I value all of my family. So I'll try and keep in touch with them. I try and speak with them real often, and I try to stay close to my youngest child so that, I don't miss a moment so that I will not have regrets. And that's it. And I try to be an integral part in my older kids' life so that I won't miss out on anything that is very important to them or any of my family members or friends.
And that is an important lesson for us. So spend time. Spend time, listeners. Let us spend time with those persons who are near and dear to our hearts. Let's time is what is valuable. It's not how many houses or many cars or how many things that you would have had, but the experiences, the time that you would have spent with your loved one, that is what counts. So call up a friend and call up a loved one and share some time. Carolyn, share with us though the dates that her birthday, the time that she died. How do you cope with these times when these dates come along? How
Whenever the date that she died come along, it's real close to my birthday. So like from my birthday, I start. It's like a counting down in my mind to the day when she passed. And for for that day, it's like I can relive that moment when I walk into the when I walked down the ward. I saw her bed empty, and I walked into the room and I saw her lying there. And for now, at this moment, for years, couple years before, I couldn't hear a certain song in church, I would just start crying. But over the years, it has the pain has slowly subsided, and the good memories stays. Even the bad one of me seeing her dead, I can remember just seeing that smile on her face that day, and I couldn't believe that she was gone. And that, when it comes around to her birthday, it's very vivid. I remember the day, the 8th of October. I remember that day just plain as if it was yesterday I had her. But, it's just like a memory for my whole family. And sometimes the young people that knew her, they were their age group together. They would like age a picture of her and send it to me and say, this would be what she would look like, and we would just all laugh, at that time. But we still keep it as a memory to all of us because of the person she was.
as you mentioned the day that she passed, did they call you before? Were you expecting to see her when you went alive, or you would have gotten the call from the doctor ahead of time, and you sort of was prepared? Were you prepared for that moment when you walked on that ward?
For me, when I received the call that morning, in my heart, as a mother, I knew something was drastically wrong because I was calling her before they called me and I didn't receive an answer. And I'm like, it's unlike her not to answer her phone, So I said, okay, Lord, something is wrong. And as I say, I leaned upon prayers. So I prayed for strength, for whatever will happen that day. And I was at work and I received a call, and I had one of the doctors that I worked with then advised me, and I said okay. And she said, "You do not drive. Let the driver drive." So that kind of give you an hint that something more is going on. So I had that was I had breakfast that morning. I said, "Lord, I need strength," because I had my grandmother, who is still alive, was coming to visit her that day. That day was the day she was supposed to start chemo. So all of my family members was gonna be there as full support for her to start chemo on that day. And so everybody was on their way for me to meet up, for us to meet up at the hospital. So that was it. I had to say, Lord, give me strength. And when I reached and it hit me that her bed was empty and they moved her, nothing else in my heart just sunk and said, she's gone, you know. So whatever else came around the corner, I was prepared when I saw her doctor come in and come in with a psychologist. I knew without a shadow of doubt that she was gone. So, and then I had to say to myself, I had to stand strong because my mom was going to be there and my grandmother was going to be there. So I had to stand strong for the family at this point because then my mom became weaker and my grandmother was also the weak. So I had to be the strong person in my family at that time.
It's hard to find strength when you are supposed to be the one who was weak. But even in that dark moment, you weren't thinking about yourself. You were thinking about the grief of grandmother. And at that time, it would have been great grandmother. You would have
Yes,
been thinking that I have to be strong. But you were in the health field. Did it make it any easier for you at that time to handle and to cope?
at one point, I felt as if I let her down because I wasn't able to ease her pain. Because one day she said to me, Mom, nothing is easing my pain. So I felt, as a trained nurse, I felt as if I've let her down because I could not ease her pain. And, all I could have done was to um, hold her in my arms and rubbed her as I would caress a child. And it made a difference. But I, after that, I did feel there was not, I felt like I was helpless as a nurse. I couldn't do anything for her. So it made me look on my profession from a different standpoint. And it did allow me to I did make some changes afterwards, but it seems like that's the only thing that draw me back to my first love. The same thing that kind of pushed me away a little bit is what drew me back. But yes, I did feel like I let her down as a nurse.
I am without words at this moment. And these experiences, they ought to change us. They ought to make us see life from a different perspective. You said you started to view things differently. And I know your patients, all the patients that you interact with, they would have been feeling a level of empathy, a level of care that they wouldn't have received from a caregiver who had your experience. Yes, you know what it's like to have a loved one in the hospital with limited time. You know what it's like
Hmm.
to be in the health field and be unable to save the life of the most precious gift God has given you. You know that firsthand. And so now, when you touch a patient, when you have the opportunity to care for someone, it's not an ordinary day, it's not a job. It touches your inside. That's the amount of care that you are now able to share. And you're able to give someone that experience. We are going to wrap up on the other side of the break, but we're gonna just play another song and then we'll talk some more.
I was born strong. I was made for this. See, I met so many hard times when I thought I couldn't make it. See, I've had my trials when my pillows dried my eyes. Then the morning came and my wings took flight. I rise, See, I'm hurting but not broken. Down but I won't die. I rise, Soon I will reach the sky and still I rise. Some say it's a mystery how I still believe that in spite of all I've been through, I could still push the wheel. See, I have a power they can't see with their eyes. It's a little thing called faith that makes broken wings fly. I rise, No, I'm hurting but not broken. Down but I won't die. I rise,
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4 Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. 3426. 938 3426.
Welcome back. We are having a conversation on this Sensational Sunday. I'm your girl Elise, and today we're speaking with our special guest, Carolyn Smith. It has been a very insightful conversation. And I would like you, Carolyn, to share with our listeners. Life is filled with different moments, ups and downs, and there are persons here who have been experiencing loss of loved one, loss of jobs, we experience so many losses. And sometimes when we get down there, it seems like it's impossible for us to get up. Now, Sensational Sundays is all about providing encouragement. It's all about inspiring someone, no matter where you find yourself, listeners, no matter where life has brought you. 19 years ago, Carolyn lost her eldest child. Her child is not with her today. She's coping also with the illness of a second child. But she has chosen to share her story in the hope that someone would have been encouraged. And if this episode reaches one person who needs to hear a word of encouragement, who needs to hear that the sun still shines, God is still able, someone who needs to hear that when you're down and out, remember the only place to go next is up. Someone needs to hear some word of encouragement, Carolyn, and I want you to package your words of encouragement, words to help someone who doesn't feel like getting out of bed, words that will help someone who doesn't feel like heading to work tomorrow or even doing anything, doing this thing called life. I want you to share some words of encouragement.
What I would say to someone who has been in the feel down or feel like there is no hope for tomorrow or for the next minute or so. In Matthew 26, which I'm going to paraphrase, Jesus said, do not worry about tomorrow. Do not worry about your life. Is a sparrow that flies, does it have more value than you? But yet still he cares when the sparrow falls. Look at the grass, which he clothes in so much beauty. And we look at the flowers and we say it's beautiful. He does care about those things. But what happened to you? You're of more value to God. You are so much value to him that he sent his only begotten son to die just for you. If you were the only one, his son would have come and died just for you. And Jesus in Mark 10 verse 27 says, Jesus looking at them, he said, with men it is impossible, but with God all things are possible. All you have to do is just make that move upwards, and he will hold you up on wings of faith and carry you where you cannot carry yourself. And that's the only person you can cast all your cares upon, because he loves you so much.
Wonderful. Such powerful and profound words of encouragement. I know that someone would have been blessed, someone would have been motivated this afternoon, that no matter your circumstances, you can still have hope amidst all that's happening. I want to encourage you also, Carolyn, as you are on this journey with your second daughter, these words that you have just spoken to us, I want you to receive them. I want you to hold them near to your heart and remember that God is a limitless God. And when we put our trust in Him, we have nothing to fear. I know that when you're in the midst of the storm and the winds are just encircling you, these words sometimes they are far from you, far from your mind. But once you immerse yourself and you have gone through rough times, preparing you to journey along life's way. So I want to thank you this afternoon for sharing your story. Your story has the power to touch lives and to inspire others. And I'll ask you this final question. What does healing mean for you?
Healing is a closer relationship with God and my family. It has drawn us real close, closer than anything else, and it makes us forgive easily because you do not know what tomorrow brings, and you do not want to have regrets. So it brings us closer, and that's what healing looks like for me. And it helps me to step and be helpful and be more kinder to others because I do not know what that person might be going through at that time. So I'm just careful in the way I deal with others also.
Wonderful. I thank you so much for sharing your story with us, with Elise, Lady Elise on Sensational Sundays, with the listeners on the Flashpoint. We have been better for it and we would have learned some crucial lessons in life. And one of the fundamental lessons I've learned is we have a limit. we don't have control of our circumstances, and when we go through tough times, remember God is still able. Remember there is still hope. Remember you can still go and keep on going. So thank you, Carolyn. It was our pleasure to have you here on Sensational Sundays. You have inspired us and you have brought us some help, some hope, and some healing for those who are grieving, for those who are relating to others who are grieving. Thank you for spending this time with us.
You're welcome.
I thank you for it all, the good, bad, the ugly, great and small, the times of victory and when I fall. I'm so grateful that I'm still standing tall. I thank you for my tears, the pain helped me overcome my fears. throughout the years. It's a miracle that I'm still standing here. All that I am is because all that you brought me through, and everything I survived, it's all because of you.
I thank you for it all. The good, bad, the ugly, great and small. The times of victory and when I fall.
Oh my.
I'm so grateful that I'm still standing tall.
I thank you for my tears.
I thank you for the tears.
The pain helped
The
me.
pain helped me overcome my
Pain helped
fears.
me overcome
You've been
my
good to
fears.
me down throughout the years.
Yes, you have.
It's a miracle I'm still standing here.
All that I am.
It's because of all that you brought me through.
And everything.
Everything I survived, it's all because of you.
How can I say thank you for all the ways
I
you made for me?
can't thank you enough.
The doors you opened, the times you were there, always making a
I
way for me.
can't thank you enough.
How can I express the gratitude that I feel for you right now?
Thank you enough.
So I just have to pause for a moment right now and say, I gotta say thank you for all you've done for
All
me.
that you've done for me. Thank you
For every opportunity,
for every opportunity.
I gotta say.
I want to thank the listeners for inviting us into your space on this sensational day. We are thankful that Carolyn has chosen to share her story as a means of inspiring someone out there. Together, let's embrace the process of healing and discover the beauty that can arise from the depths of pain. I know sometimes the road does get tough and the journey is rough. But I say to you, hang in there. This has been another episode of Sensational Sunday. And I say to you, have yourself a wonderful afternoon and a good week. Remember to always share the link. Stay connected to Flashpoint. And thank you for your love and your support. We really do appreciate it. This is your girl Elise. Until I hear you and see you virtually in Radio Land, it's been an absolute pleasure to share this afternoon with you. Peace and love. Sensational Sundays with your girl Elise on Flashpoint Radio. Come, let's talk, let's hang, let's just jam on Sunday, 3 p.m. Flashpoint Radio.
Stay strong and keep my armor on. If I fall, rise the next time. Can't let them keep a good soldier down. See, I rise and take my place. 'Cause I'm more than a conqueror. I'm gonna finish this.